Hi everyone, welcome to another session. In this session, we will discuss European Union General Data Protection Regulation. Uh, these are the important points which you can see in this graphic. So let's break it down clearly using what's shown in this diagram. So first thing, not in EU. What does it mean? So GDPR applies to any company no matter where it is located if it handles the the data of EU residents, right? So even if company in the USA, Canada, Japan, or any other region, if it deals with EU citizen personal data, it must comply regardless where a company is located. If it handles, it deals with EU resident data, it should comply. It must comply, not should, it must comply. So um, it covers EU resident activity. The second point is vast pool. So vast pool means broad definition of personal data. So that means GDPR covers wide range of personal data, not just name or addresses. It includes IP, cookies, location data, genetic and biometric data, anything that can identify an individual, right? So all these things could identify an individual. So that is the second point. The third point is very important. If their breach happen, we must notify in 72 hours. If a company suffers a data breach, it must not notify regulators within 72 hours, inform affected user if risk is high. This help mitigate damage quickly. DP officer, data protection officer required for some organization. If the organization size is big for a bigger organization, they have a data protection officer, uh, and it his role is oversee GDPR compliance, conduct training, audits, um, and make sure that companies compliant with GDPR, right? The second thing is so DP officer, we have already covered this. Consent. Consent is very important. So consent is companies must get explicit and informed consent to collect and process personal data. No more confusing check boxes or pre-ticked forms, right? So we need to tell to the individual very clearly, so what type of data they are going to collect, right? uh, and consent is very important. So that means uh, they should freely uh, they should have freedom to give permission whether data can be collected. Also specific, we need to make sure that the data which is required, specific data, so that needs to be collected, not not an additional data, right? Informed, so we need to inform that person very clearly, so what type of data we are going to collect. So important thing is consent. Without consent, we are not supposed to collect the data of individual. Profiling. If company uses automated processing to make decision about someone, for example, credit card, scoring, job screening, the user must be informed, often consent. If the data is used for any other purpose, uh, we need to inform the person, and as well as we need to have consent from that person. um, and the person should have right to challenge the outcome, right? Big fines. There are two levels of fines, lower tier and high tier. I think it is up to 10 million or maybe more than that, are 2% of global revenue. And I think in higher tier, it is 20 million or 4% of global revenue, right? So these fines, if it depends on severity of violation and effort to comply. So, so fines, we also need to be careful if data breach happen. We need to inform as quickly as possible. But as we discuss, mm, if violation, the severity of violation, then around about this much amount have to pay as a fine. So another thing is right to forgotten. It is a very crucial thing. For instance, that is also included um, in GDPR, officially called that right to forgotten. Individual can request deletion of their personal data when the data is no longer needed. Right? They withdraw consent. They decided to withdraw consent. Right? And the data was unlawfully processed, or there is no overriding legitimate reason to keep it. If user closes their account, they can ask the company to delete all their data, and companies obligated obligated to comply. So if user ask to erase his or her data, so the company is bound to do that, right? So GDPR is mandatory. It's not recommended. So GDPR is 100% mandatory. It is a binding regulation, not just a recommendation. I think it became law on 25th of May 2018. As we discussed earlier, applies to all companies, even outside the EU, if they offer goods or services to EU resident. Monitor behavior like tracking cookies or analytics. Failure to comply risk massive financial penalties and legal consequences. So companies must comply with GDPR if they handle the data of any EU resident. It's not an optional thing, right? Right to be forgotten. If user withdraw the consent, or if user does not that particular user does not for that particular user they do not need data, they are bound to forget it, right? So this is the quick overview of GDPR. And as I said, it is important topic for the CISSP exam. Uh, and yes, if you have any feedback, question, kindly share in the feedback section.